Hey, if you want to find success as a writer, there is one thing that is critical that you get right. It's not the tool that you use, it's not the schedule that you commit to, it's not even your talent or ability as a writer. It's your mindset. Today on the show, I'm going to share 3 mindset shifts that have been absolutely pivotal for me. Let's get to it. Hey, welcome into the show. Today, we're going to talk about 3 mindset shifts that I have found absolutely pivotal in my success as a writer. Again, I want to share these with you because I believe that it doesn't matter how talented you are, how much time you dedicate to writing, what tools you use, whether it's Scrivener, Google Docs, or Word, or typewriter, pen and paper, whatever it is. If you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to find success in your writing, or at minimum, you're going to have an extreme uphill challenge when it comes to finding success as a writer. But with the right mindset, all of that other stuff can start to fall in place if you've got the right mindset and the right perspective on your writing project. So, again, recently I shared 3 practical things that have helped me as a writer. I would encourage you to go check that out as well. But today I want to talk about what I think is maybe even more important than that. And that is 3 mindset shifts that have helped me as a writer. So let's look at this. All right. The very first thing that's helped me as a writer, the very first mindset shift is I started believing that I am a writer. You would be surprised how incredibly difficult this can be for a lot of people, especially if you're somebody like me who's relatively new to writing. It can be quite a challenge to think about yourself in those terms because for a long time, I'll give you my experience. I wanted to write, but I didn't think I had permission to do it because I wasn't one of those people. I wasn't a writer. I didn't have that kind of creative gene. I told myself I didn't have that bent to be an artist. Because quite frankly, that wasn't the path that I had chosen. I was doing corporate work. I worked for a company. I still work for that company, by the way. And writing was for those creatives, those writers, those people who actually were trained in this, who had experience doing this, and were actually really good at it. But one of the big things that happened to me early on is I started believing that I belonged in that group. And there's a lot of reasons why that happened and how that happened. But I'll tell you, one of the big things that happened for me was I had other people who I viewed as being part of that camp who essentially said to me, "Hey, you belong here too. Like there's room at the table for you." And so, side note, if you are a writer and you're talking with people in your circles, whether online or in person, who are maybe struggling with that, like encourage them in that, invite them in and let them know there's room at the table. You don't have to have a set of qualifications. You don't have to graduate to some level of mastery before you can call yourself a writer. The only thing that's required to call yourself a writer is that you're actually writing. So this was foundational to me. I started believing I am a writer. So I want to encourage you. What does it take for you to believe that about yourself? Whether you've written multiple books or you're just starting on your first manuscript, don't don't tell yourself that you're trying to be a writer, that you're an aspiring writer, or that you hope to one day be a writer. Friend, if you hear nothing else from this show today, I hope you'll hear that if you are writing, you are a writer, period. My friend Drew would say, and she said on this podcast, that even when you've got the idea for a book, you're already, before you've started writing, you're already a writer. So own that title, believe it, and get it out in the open. One of the most powerful, impactful things for me in my writing journey was the first time I said it out loud. When I told someone else, kind of outside my most inner circle of like friends and family, I was at work and I shared it as kind of a fun fact about myself in a meeting. And it was such a burden lifted. I was nervous to do it at first because how are they going to respond, right? But it was very well received. And for me, it just felt like hearing those words come out of my mouth, saying it out loud, getting it out in the open was such a relief, such a burden lifted. So I want to encourage you to believe it for yourself. You are a writer. And I want to challenge you in the next 7 days, find a way to get it out in the open. And don't use any of these qualifiers. So I talked about this a little bit, but don't say, "Hey, I'm just a new writer," or I'm trying to write a book. You're not trying. You're actually, if you're writing a book, that's what you're doing. Don't say you're just an indie author or you'll probably just self-publish. When you do these things, it comes off as you're trying to be humble. You're new at this, and you want to respect that there are people who've been doing it a lot longer than you have, and that's all great and wonderful. But what it also does psychologically is it signals to you and to the people that you're talking to that, hey, this isn't really something to be taken seriously. This is more of a side thing, kind of a hobby, something that I'm dipping my toe in. And if that's how you view your work, that's fine. But for most of us, it is far more than that. It is more than just a hobby, even if we're not, making millions of dollars yet, right? Um, so avoid those qualifiers if you can, because I think what it does is it signals to yourself and to your hearers that, hey, you don't have to take this seriously. And writer, you should take your work seriously. Your identity as a writer is going to inform your activity. So I think in a lot of ways, we sometimes get this backwards. We think like, hey, once I publish a bunch of books, then I'll be able to call myself a writer. But that's not how it works. You don't have to wait till you cross this imaginary finish line and then you can own that identity. Like, no, understand that you've got the idea, you've got the passion. God has given you this desire to create a story, to write a book. And so whether you're doing it or not, you are a writer. And so now it's just a matter of walking through that identity, like letting that activity be informed by the identity that you already had. So mindset shift number one, and this one is pivotal, like the cornerstone of all of it. I started believing that I am a writer. Have you gotten to that point? Have you crossed that threshold of acknowledging and owning the title? And if you have, I want to encourage you in the next 7 days, find a way to get it out in the open and tell me about it. Send me a note, comment on this video, send me an email, write a review on the podcast episode if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. I would love to hear your experience. I would love to hold you accountable and encourage you in that because it is such a game changer. So that's number one, believe that I'm a writer. Number two, the number two mindset shift that has helped me as a writer is I realized that I'm playing the long game. So when I first started writing my book, I thought, okay, I'm going to spend a couple of months getting words on the page. I've already got all these ideas that, they're just bursting forth. And so all I've got to do is sit down and write them. And then I'll edit it real quick and publish and make millions of dollars and get movie rights and like the whole deal. It's taken me a little bit longer than that. I am on, I think, currently draft 4 of my novel. I've also had some other writing projects that I've done on the side. But this one has really been a labor of love, and that's okay. Like at first I kind of was disappointed and I felt a lot of pressure of like, well, I'm behind the timeline that I set up. But I realized, you know what? This is a long game. I'm going to be a writer for the rest of my life. And so all the timelines that I'm trying to hit are self-imposed. Those deadlines that I say I want to get to, like that's great. I think it's wonderful to kind of pace yourself and have an idea for where you want to be at a certain point, whether it's, after a month or after a year or whatever. But recognize for most of us, all of those milestones, all those deadlines, those are self-imposed deadlines. And so recognize that you are not behind. You are not too late. You're right on schedule. You're right where you need to be. This whole thing is about the journey. And so focus on the journey, give yourself grace, and recognize that, hey, you've got plenty of time. Pace yourself. When you do this, it will relieve so much of the pressure. I think there's like, if you're like me, you've got a full-time job, maybe you've got a family, you've got responsibilities you have to uphold. There is enough pressure in your regular day-to-day life. Like, don't let this be another area where you're just adding undue pressure on yourself. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have goals. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't work hard. You should. If this is something that you really value, this is something that you should be pouring a lot of your energy and time and effort into. But when you view it as a long game, you're able to pace yourself. You're able to kind of dial back some of that pressure and just exhale and enjoy the process, which is really, I think, what this is all about anyway. And that allows you, as we've already talked about, to just have fun. One of my early podcast guests, Paula, said, writing is supposed to be fun. And I think there's so much challenge that goes into it. There's so much frustration that can go into it. There's so many things about it that are difficult and hard and frustrating. But the reason why most of us started writing to begin with is because we wanted this creative outlet, right? We wanted it to be something that was life-giving and soul-nourishing and all of those things. And it should be. So realizing you're playing the long game, allowing yourself to pace yourself and relieve some of that pressure, really, I have found has just allowed me to have fun and enjoy the journey, which I think honestly is the entire point. So Number one, mindset shift, recognize and realize I'm a writer. Number two, realize that I'm playing the long game. Number three, the third mindset shift that has helped me as a writer is I've recognized that writing is an art and not a science. What does that mean? I think if you go online, if you talk to writing coaches or editors or other folks who want to help out with your writing, oftentimes you'll find formulas and frameworks. And if you do this and then do this, you'll punch in this formula and you'll end up with a book. Those can be incredibly helpful. I've got some of these on my website. So, for example, if you want to write up to 30,000 words on your novel in the next month, I've got a formula that can help you get to 30K in 30 days. You can go there, go to pages.tcburr.com, download that for free as my gift to you. So I'm not against frameworks. I love them. I think they can be super helpful, but not every framework is going to work for every writer. So if you've gotten frustrated, and let's say you've read Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody, which is a book that I would recommend, super helpful. But if that formula doesn't really work for you and for your project, that doesn't mean that you're a failure as a writer. It doesn't mean that, oh, you could never do it. It's not going to work because I tried this thing and it didn't work. That just gives you a data point. That lets you say, okay, now I can try something else. Now I can shift the focus. Maybe I can take what was really helpful from Jessica's book and apply those things. And the things that didn't really resonate or connect, maybe I leave those to the side. You have the total freedom to do this. This thing, writing, is an art. It's not a science. So that means you can and should listen to writing advice. There's tons of advice out there in the world of writing. Go to the internet, go to ChatGPT, go to Threads, right? You can find an unlimited amount of writing advice, information. I'm trying to share as much of that from my perspective as I can here, and I hope it's been helpful to you. I want you to listen to all of it, but even when it comes to my stuff, like if something I say doesn't resonate, hey, feel the freedom to disregard it. Not everything I say is going to work for you, but I hope a lot of it does. Listen to as much advice as you can, gather as much data as you can. Don't let that be an excuse to not actually do the writing though. Like you can't research forever, right? But find what works for you. If something doesn't work, like you have the freedom to say, hey, thanks for your input. Thank you for that advice. I'm going to try something else. That is totally within your right. You, let me remind you, are the author. So you get to make all these calls. Feel the freedom, again, to explore, to experiment, try things out. Like one of the things I try to tell myself is if I try something new, a new approach, a new framework, I want to give it a little bit of time. So I typically say I'm going to give something 30 days. And if that 30 days at the end of it, I feel good about the progress I'm making, it's something that's not incredibly draining for me, and it still makes sense with the goals that I'm working for, I'll keep going. But if not, feel the freedom to pivot, feel the freedom to make changes. Again, you're the author. You can do this. It is an art, not a science. And my favorite thing of all, perhaps, about writing is that as the author, you get to make the rules. You get to make all the calls. That doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind. That doesn't mean there aren't standards. That doesn't mean there are best practices and conventional wisdom that you shouldn't listen to. There are. For example, if you're writing in a particular genre, there are prescribed kind of word count targets that you should probably try to fit your book within if it makes sense. If it doesn't, like there's no way you can do that, that's okay. Just know you're kind of going outside the norm, and that may have an impact when you talk about getting an agent and publishing and all of that. But the point is, at the end of the day, it is your book, it is your story, it is your project. And as the author, you are the one who gets to make the rules. That's not true in so many areas of life, but in writing, it is because you're the author. So let's recap the mindset shifts that have helped me most. And again, true all of this back to the idea that your mindset is the most important thing when it comes to writing. You can have all the time, all the tools, all the talent in the world as a writer. But if you don't believe that you can do it, if you keep telling yourself, I'm never going to make it, no one's ever going to read it, this is pointless, all of the time, the talent, the tools are going to go by the wayside. They will be wasted because your mindset is ultimately going to be the thing that defeats you. But you have the power to influence that, to change it, and let your mindset become the thing that actually propels you into incredible success in your writing. You have the ability to influence that. You can actually work on that and improve that. If you want help with that, I created a guide called Mindset Resets. This is 20 of those common kind of statements that folks say and writers specifically say about themselves, about their work. And I've kind of helped you reframe it with something that's a totally new take on that same idea. So, John Acuff wrote a book called Soundtracks, and he basically in that book said that all of us walk around playing these soundtracks in our heads. And they're things that we get maybe from our family of origin or from past failures. But they're just these things that we say on repeat, like, I'm never going to make it, or this isn't good enough, or I'm not a writer. John calls those broken soundtracks. And his idea is that you can replace those with new and better ones and retrain your brain to actually believe what's true, that you are a writer, that you do have what it takes, and that you will find success if you stay connected. So, a little bit of a rabbit trail, but the point there is that mindset is so incredibly pivotal. And for me, the three that were the biggest shifts for me is number one, I started believing I'm a writer. Number two, I realized I'm in it for the long game. And number three, I recognize that this whole thing, it's an art, not a science. If you want help making progress on your book, I mentioned frameworks earlier in this episode. One of the frameworks that I created is called 30K in 30 days. I created this first I did it as a writing challenge, and I kind of repurposed it into a self-guided PDF. So I've created a step-by-step checklist of things you can do for 4 weeks to help yourself make progress. So this is great if you're starting out on a book. It's great if you're feeling stuck in the middle of the book, or really anywhere in between. And so would love for you to have this totally free. It's my gift to you. Go to pages.tcburr.com. You can download that for free today. And I would love to connect with you on social as well. So you can see all my handles there. It's at tcburr on YouTube, tc.burr on Threads and Instagram. And you can get other free resources. Contact me, stay connected on my website, tcburr.com. Hey, that's it for today. I'd love to know what mindset shifts have most helped you. Maybe it's one of the three that I shared. Maybe it's something totally different. If you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else, leave me a review and put it in that comment. Whoa, I just threw this plastic thing. I don't know what this is or why I threw it, but that's what you get today. Hey, thanks so much for coming. Until next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.